In the village of Aduk, where the soil was red and stubborn and the mornings smelled of dew and firewood, life followed rhythms older than memory. People woke with the sun, worked until sweat soaked their clothes, and rested only when darkness demanded it. Respect mattered more than wealth, and lineage mattered more than pride. It was in this village that Zainab Adebla was born, the only daughter of Baba Adebla, a cocoa farmer whose hands were cracked from decades of honest labor. Zainab grew up watching her father bend over the land that fed them. She watched her mother die young from illness that money might have cured. From that moment, something hardened quietly inside her. Poverty, to Zainab, was not romantic. It was not humble. It was cruel. It stole people slowly and apologized never. Her father raised her with discipline and values. He believed in tradition, in patience, in choosing wisely rather than choosing loudly. When Zainab was still young, Baba Adebla noticed a boy who often helped on the farm without being asked. His name was Sadiq Musa. He was an orphan, raised by a distant uncle, thin but determined, quiet but observant. Sadiq worked harder than most men twice his age. He never complained. When Baba Adebla paid him, he thanked him. When he wasn't paid, he still returned. Over time, Baba Adebla began to see what others overlooked: character. Zainab noticed Sadiq too, but not the way her father did. To her, Sadiq represented everything she feared becoming. Poor, unnoticed, trapped in a village that swallowed dreams whole. While Sadiq dreamed of improving the land, Zainab dreamed of leaving it behind. When she gained admission to a university in Ibadan, it felt like escape. The city dazzled her: lights, fast cars, women dressed like possibilities. She studied accounting, not because she loved numbers, but because she loved what numbers could buy. Sadiq remained in the village, saving money, learning skills, working odd jobs. He wrote Zainab letters she rarely replied to. When he visited Ibadan once, wearing his simple clothes, Zainab felt embarrassed introducing him to her friends. She kept him at a distance, emotionally and physically. After graduation, Zainab refused to return to Aduk permanently. She got a job in Lagos, sharing a small apartment with 2 other women. Life was hard, but it was city hard, not village hard. There was pride in suffering where everyone was ambitious. That was when Damilola Ogunlai entered her life. Damilola was everything Zainab admired: wealthy, confident, reckless with money. He drove imported cars, spoke loudly, laughed easily, and treated life like something owed to him. He noticed Zainab at a corporate event and pursued her aggressively. Dinners, gifts, promises. Zainab felt chosen, elevated. When Baba Adebla visited Lagos and met Damilola, his heart tightened. He sensed arrogance where Zainab saw success. When he asked about marriage intentions, Damilola smiled thinly and avoided clear answers. Back in the village, Baba Adebla summoned Zainab home for a serious conversation. They sat under the old mango tree that had witnessed generations. "I have chosen a man for you," Baba Adebla said calmly. "Sadiq Musa." Zainab laughed, sharp and dismissive. "That poor boy." "Baba, have you lost your senses?" Baba Adebla's face hardened. "That poor boy has character. Wealth can come and go. Character stays." Zainab stood up angrily. "I will not marry poverty. I will not live and die like my mother did." The words cut deep. Baba Adebla said nothing more. Silence became his answer. Zainab returned to Lagos and accepted Damilola's proposal without informing her father. The wedding was extravagant, loud, filled with people who barely knew her. Baba Adebla attended quietly, his eyes heavy with worry. Marriage changed everything, and not in the way Zainab expected. Damilola was charming in public, cruel in private. His temper flared without warning. His words cut deeper than his hands, though sometimes his hands followed. Zainab learned to smile at parties and cry in bathrooms. She learned that wealth could trap as tightly as poverty. When she tried to complain, Damilola reminded her of where she came from. "I rescued you," he would say. "Don't forget that." Meanwhile, Sadiq Musa left the village. No one knew where he went. Some said Abuja. Some said abroad. Baba Adebola watched the road every evening, wondering if his decision had destroyed two futures instead of saving one. Years passed. Zainab's life became a cycle of luxury and pain. She lived in a mansion but felt homeless. She wore diamonds that bruised her skin when Damilola grabbed her arm too tightly. She had everything she thought she wanted, except peace. One night, after a particularly violent argument, Zainab sat alone in her expensive bedroom and cried like the village girl she once was. For the first time, she wondered if her father had been right. Far away, unknown to her, Sadiq Musa was building something slowly. Pain had driven him, but discipline sustained him. He learned. He invested. He failed. He learned again. The village of Aduk waited, unaware that destiny was preparing a return that would shake every choice Zainab had ever made. And this was only the beginning. Marriage did not soften Damilola Ogunlai. It sharpened him. The charm that once felt intoxicating to Zainab slowly revealed itself as control. What began as instructions became rules. What began as jealousy became surveillance. Zainab learned that in Damilola's world, love was not partnership, it was possession. At first, the abuse was subtle. Damilola corrected the way she dressed, the way she laughed, the way she spoke on the phone. He criticized her friends, saying they were jealous, lazy, beneath them. Slowly, Zainab's circle shrank until it contained only him. When she protested, he reminded her of the life he had given her. "Do you want to go back to that village?" he would ask, his voice dripping with mockery. Zainab swallowed her pride and stayed silent. She had chosen this life publicly. Admitting failure felt worse than enduring pain. In African society, a woman who leaves her marriage is often blamed for not enduring enough. Zainab endured. She endured bruises hidden under long sleeves. She endured insults masked as jokes at social gatherings. She endured nights when Damilola returned home drunk, smelling of other women and entitlement. Children did not come. Doctors gave vague explanations. Damilola blamed her openly. His mother joined him, whispering that Zainab was cursed, barren, ungrateful. The mansion felt colder with each accusation. Sometimes, in moments of exhaustion, Zainab thought of Aduk village, of her father's calm voice, of Sadiq Musa's quiet eyes. She hated herself for those thoughts. They felt like weakness. Meanwhile, Baba Adebola aged rapidly. The years weighed heavily on him. His farm no longer yielded as before. His back bent lower each season. Villagers respected him still, but pity replaced admiration in some eyes. He heard rumors of Zainab's luxurious life in Lagos and comforted himself with the belief that at least she was safe. He did not know the cost of that safety. Sadiq Musa's journey was anything but magical. He left Aduk with little more than determination and bitterness. He worked as a laborer in Abuja, sleeping in crowded rooms, saving every possible naira. He learned construction skills, then basic finance. He listened more than he spoke. When others wasted money on pleasure, he invested in knowledge. Opportunity came disguised as hardship. A foreign contractor noticed his discipline and offered him a chance to travel for work. Sadiq left Nigeria quietly, carrying Aduk soil in his memory. Years passed. He failed more times than he succeeded. Businesses collapsed. Partners betrayed him. But unlike before, Sadiq did not break. Poverty had already taught him survival. Heartbreak had taught him patience. Back in Lagos, Zainab's marriage worsened. Damilola's wealth grew, but so did his cruelty. When business deals went wrong, he blamed her. When deals went right, he reminded her she was replaceable. One night, during an argument, he hit her harder than before. The sound echoed in the room like something final. That night, Zainab packed a bag and left. She did not go to friends. She did not go to relatives. She went to a small hotel on the mainland, far from the luxury she had grown accustomed to. For 3 days, she stayed there, barely eating, replaying her life in painful detail. On the fourth day, Damilola found her. He apologized publicly, dramatically. He promised therapy, change, humility. He reminded her of shame, of gossip, of how society treated divorced women. Zainab returned with him, convincing herself that survival was victory. It wasn't. The abuse returned, quieter but deeper. Psychological now. He isolated her completely. She became a shadow moving through expensive rooms. One afternoon, while scrolling aimlessly through news, Zainab froze. The headline was small, almost hidden. Nigerian-born investor leads billion-dollar infrastructure deal in East Africa. The photo showed a man in a tailored suit, calm eyes, familiar posture. Sadiq Musa. Her heart pounded violently. She read the article again and again. The village boy. The poor man her father chose. Now a billionaire investor. Memories rushed in uninvited. His patience. His letters she ignored. His quiet dignity. Zainab felt something crack inside her. Not hope, but regret. News of Sadiq's success reached Aduk village shortly after. The same villagers who once dismissed him now spoke his name with pride. Baba Adebola wept openly when he heard. Not because of money, but because his judgment had been proven true. He whispered prayers into the night, asking forgiveness for doubting destiny. In Lagos, Zainab lived with the cruel irony of her choices. She was married to wealth but owned nothing, not even herself. The man she rejected had returned transformed, unreachable. And deep inside her, a question grew louder each day. What if she had chosen differently? The knowledge of Sadiq Musa's transformation did not bring Zainab peace. It haunted her. Every expensive object in her home began to feel heavier, as if mocking her choices. The mansion echoed with silence, broken only by Damilola's arrogance and cruelty. Zainab moved through her days like a guest in her own life, polite, careful, invisible. She tried to bury the thought of Sadiq, but memories have a way of surviving where pride fails. She remembered how he used to lower his head when elders spoke, how he carried water for women without expecting praise, how he once gave her his only savings when her school fees were delayed. Back then, she had laughed and returned the money, insulted by the gesture. Now that same man commanded boardrooms across continents. One evening, while preparing dinner for guests she did not invite, Zainab overheard Damilola on the phone. His voice was sharp, desperate in a way she had never heard before. Business problems. Investors pulling out. Rumors of investigations. The empire was shaking. For the first time, fear visited Damilola's house. The abuse intensified. Fear always makes weak men violent. He blamed Zainab for his stress, for his losses, for his declining reputation. He accused her of bad luck, of bringing misfortune into his life. His mother's voice echoed the accusations, calling Zainab barren soil. One night, after another violent outburst, Zainab locked herself in the bathroom and stared at her reflection. She barely recognized the woman staring back. The confidence she once carried was gone. In its place was exhaustion and quiet anger. She made a decision that night. Not to run. Not to beg. But to survive with dignity. She began secretly saving money. Small amounts. She reconnected with an old colleague who helped her open a private account. She prepared silently, the way village women prepare for drought, without announcing it. Meanwhile, Sadiq Musa returned to Nigeria. His arrival did not make headlines, but his presence was felt. He moved differently now, calm, deliberate, uninterested in noise. He did not return to Aduk immediately. Instead, he settled in Lagos temporarily, overseeing projects, meeting officials. He remembered Zainab, but he did not chase the memory. Pain had matured into wisdom. He no longer carried bitterness. Success had taught him restraint. Still, destiny has its own impatience. At a charity fundraising event focused on rural development, Zainab attended reluctantly beside Damilola. She felt out of place among the powerful men and women who spoke confidently about nation-building. Then she saw him. Sadiq Musa stood across the hall, speaking quietly to a group of investors. His presence was commanding without arrogance. He wore success lightly, like a man who understood its fragility. Their eyes met. Time hesitated. Zainab felt her chest tighten. Sadiq recognized her instantly, but his expression did not change. No anger. No triumph. Just acknowledgement. Later that evening, their paths crossed again. Politeness demanded greeting. "Zainab," Sadiq said calmly. "It's been a long time." She struggled to find words. "You've done well," she finally said, hating how small her voice sounded. "We all do what we can with the choices we make," he replied gently. Damilola joined them, sensing the tension. When he learned who Sadiq was, his arrogance shifted into forced friendliness. He bragged excessively, trying to establish superiority. Sadiq listened politely, unimpressed. That night, Zainab could not sleep. The next day, news broke. Damilola's company was under investigation for financial crimes. Accounts were frozen. Assets seized. The wealth that once protected him evaporated overnight. Friends disappeared. Allies denied knowing him. In moments of crisis, truth reveals itself. Damilola blamed Zainab again. Accused her of betrayal, of bad omen, of ruining him. When she told him she was leaving, he laughed hysterically. "Where will you go?" he mocked. "Back to the village." She did not answer. Zainab returned to a Duk village after years away. Baba Adebola was thinner now, his hair fully gray. When he saw his daughter standing at the gate, he did not scold her. He did not ask questions. He simply held her and cried. In that embrace, years of pride dissolved. Village life humbled Zainab. She fetched water again. She greeted elders properly. She slept without fear for the first time in years. Word of her return spread quietly. Not long after, Sadiq Musa arrived. The village gathered to welcome him. Not because he was rich, but because he was theirs. He greeted elders, donated quietly to community projects, and knelt before Baba Adebola in respect. When Sadiq and Zainab finally spoke alone, there was no romance, only honesty. "I was foolish," Zainab said simply. "I chose loudly instead of wisely." Sadiq nodded. Pain teaches what comfort hides. She did not ask for forgiveness. She did not ask for love. She accepted her mistakes fully. Sadiq respected that. Their conversation ended not with promises, but with peace. In the city, Damilola fell completely. His wealth gone, his power useless, he became invisible to the society he once ruled. The man who once controlled everything now controlled nothing. And Zainab began again, not as a wife, not as a trophy, but as a woman rebuilding her soul. The story was not over yet. Zainab's return to a Duk village was not welcomed with celebration, but with quiet observation. In African communities, people rarely rush to judge out loud. They watch. They listen. They allow time to speak. Zainab understood this. She accepted the whispers, the curious glances, the cautious greetings. She deserved them. Each morning, she helped her father on the farm. Her hands, once softened by luxury, blistered again. But the pain grounded her. It reminded her that survival was honest work. Baba Adebola never said, "I told you so." His silence carried more wisdom than words. At night, Zainab sat outside, listening to crickets and distant drums, thinking of the life she had chased and the one she had almost lost. For the first time in years, her thoughts were her own. Sadiq Musa did not linger in the village. He had responsibilities beyond a Duk now, projects, employees, governments waiting for his decisions. Yet, he returned often. Not to impress, not to reclaim, but to restore. He funded a small health center. He rebuilt the primary school. He invested in irrigation so the farms could survive dry seasons. People noticed the difference between wealth that shouted and wealth that served. Zainab watched all of this quietly. She did not attach herself to Sadiq's success. She had learned that proximity to power did not equal purpose. Instead, she began volunteering at the school, teaching basic accounting and literacy to young girls. She wanted them to understand choice early, before pride blinded them. One afternoon, as harmattan winds swept dust across the village, Sadiq sat beside Baba Adebola under the old mango tree. The same tree where choices had once been argued. "You raised her well," Sadiq said respectfully. Baba Adebola sighed. "I raised her strong. But strength without patience becomes pride." They sat in silence, men bound by shared history. In Lagos, Damilola Ogunlai's life unraveled completely. Court cases dragged on. Friends avoided him. The women who once chased his attention vanished. He moved from mansion to rented apartment, from arrogance to desperation. He tried calling Zainab repeatedly. She never answered. When he finally traveled to Aduk, seeking sympathy or control, he found neither. The village did not recognize him. No one bowed. No one feared him. His voice carried no weight here. When he confronted Zainab, she looked at him calmly, not with hatred, not with love, but with finality. "I survived you," she said softly. "That is all the power you ever had over me." Damilola left defeated, not by revenge, but by irrelevance. Months passed. Zainab rebuilt herself piece by piece. She started a cooperative for village women, teaching them small business management. Slowly, respect replaced gossip. Trust replaced suspicion. One evening, Sadiq visited her as the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and gold. "I will be leaving again," he said. "Long-term projects this time." Zainab nodded. "The world needs builders." He studied her face carefully. "And you?" "I am where I need to be," she replied honestly. There was a pause, heavy but peaceful. "I once loved you," Sadiq said gently. "That love shaped me. Losing it made me stronger." Zainab swallowed hard. "I once rejected you. That rejection destroyed me before it rebuilt me." They shared a quiet smile. Not of romance, but of understanding. Years later, Aduk village flourished. The school expanded. The clinic saved lives. Young people stayed instead of fleeing blindly to cities. Sadiq Musa became known not just as a billionaire, but as a man who returned. Zainab never remarried quickly. She chose patience. She chose self-respect. When love came again, calmer, wiser, it met a woman no longer running from her past. Baba Adebola passed away peacefully, proud of the daughter who finally understood him. At his funeral, Sadiq stood beside Zainab, not as savior, not as husband, but as proof that destiny does not punish forever. It teaches. In the end, Zainab did not win by marrying wealth. She won by surviving pride, enduring pain, and choosing dignity. And Sadiq did not return to claim revenge. He returned as evidence that patience can outgrow rejection. That was the true inheritance.